We got some pretty hilarious Title IX stuff going on. First, the bad news. Proposed Title IX regulations would roll back essential free speech due process protections for college students. Spoiler alert, you never had any freedoms or protections in college. Now, today, the Department of Indoctrination proposed new Title IX regulations that, if implemented, would gut essential free speech and due process rights for college students facing sexual misconduct allegations on campus. As required by federal law, the department must now solicit public feedback before the pending rules are finalized. The draft regulations are a significant departure from the current Title IX regulations. Unlike the current regulations adopted in current year -2 after 18 months of review, the new regulations will roll back student rights by eliminating students' rights to a live hearing, eliminating the right to cross-examination, weakening students' right to legal representation. Yeah, they want the Star Chamber to be able to declare you guilty, and that's the end of it. Allowing a single campus bureaucrat to serve as judge and jury, rejecting the Supreme Court's definition of sexual harassment in favor of a definition that threatens free speech rights. Now, that should be blatantly illegal. And requiring colleges and universities to use weak preponderance of evidence standards to determine guilt unless they use a higher standard for other alleged misconduct. These changes authorize or require institutions to violate fundamental student and faculty civil liberties. If you go to college, you're basically you're signing those away. You don't have those anymore. You literally paid money to go to a Marxist indoctrination center. You don't have any rights. And yes, these college tribunals can be sued in court. That is your one recourse. If the college violates your rights and the Star Chamber gives you a sham conviction, sue their asses. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression will submit its formal objections to the proposed changes in the coming weeks, which will be ignored. Moreover, FIRE is committed to using all the resources at its disposal to ensure core American freedoms, such as a student's right to free speech and due process, are not abandoned by the federal government. Abandon college already. This new proposal is a non-starter for students and faculty rights, said FIRE Legislative and Policy Director Joe Cohn. These regulations eliminate the right to live hearings, eliminate the right to cross-examination, weaken protections for free speech, and authorize schools to deny students the right to have an active assistance of a lawyer. There's a recipes for constitutional violations that courts are unlikely to ignore. That's the big part, that courts are unlikely to ignore. If they destroy your college prospects, sue them for enough money so you never have to work again. The current Title IX regulations are one of the biggest victories for students' rights in memory, but as I predicted, when they went into effect in current year -2, the work is not over, said FIRE Executive Director Robert Shibley. FIRE will fight to ensure all students are afforded the free speech and due process rights they have every right to expect as Americans. Yeah, I've kind of grown to expect this shit, honestly. Yeah, for over a decade, FIRE has led the fight against the erosion of free speech and due process rights on campus through the abuse of Title IX, the 1972 law that prohibits sex discrimination in federally funded indoctrination programs. So if the schools just drop their federal funding, might be able to make some changes, right? During a current year -11 Dear Colleague letter sent by federal government to colleagues, colleges and universities nationwide kicked off the era of vast Title IX overreach that led to the crackdown on protected expression and elimination of vital protections, including the right to remain silent and even the right to a live hearing at all, in an effort to avoid federal investigation and the possible loss of federal funding. And now instead, you're just going to be sued for more than you would have lost in that federal funding, huh? All right, that's fine. That's fine. You can do that. So the Dear Colleague era led to more than 600 lawsuits, mainly successful. Yep, that's the important bit. Against colleges for conducting allegedly unfair disciplinary processes. What's more, a current year -3 study of top schools conducted by FIRE found that college students were routinely denied even the most basic elements of fair hearing. More than 2/3 of colleges surveyed did not even explicitly guarantee students that they would be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, it's the opposite. We know how these colleges work. They are not on your side. They are actively trying to destroy you. So just don't bother fighting them within their own system. Sue their fucking asses from outside of their safe space. So in current year -2, at the urging of FIRE and other civil liberties advocates, the Department of Indoctrination finally addressed this overreach when it enacted new balanced regulations that took the rights of all students into account. The current year -2 Title IX regulations provided important protections for those reporting that they were victims of sexual misconduct, while still ensuring that those accused were offered basic due process protections, such as the express presumption of innocence, impartial investigators. Yeah, good luck finding any of those. Impartial investigators, huh? Really? And the right to live to a live hearing with cross-examination. The current year -2 regulations also protected free speech rights by defining sexual harassment consistent with Supreme Court precedent. Previous federal guidance and to colleges discouraged or otherwise failed to require these crucial protections. In the years since their enactment, FIRE's defended the current year -2 regulations in court against multiple legal challenges from outside groups and individuals. The regulations proposed today, if allowed to go into effect in their current form, would undo many of the victories for student rights won in current year -2. You're in college. You're literally being trained to be a Marxist activist. You have no rights. Despite their hostility towards fair procedures, even today's proposed regulations do not entirely roll back the hard-won protections for students. Institutions are still required to provide an express presumption of innocence, which shockingly was neither required nor common until the current year -2 regulations. Schools are still required to turn over exculpatory evidence they may possess, albeit now upon a request. Another long overdue improvement made in the current year -2 regulations. Well, if they don't and you can prove they had it, sue their asses. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization dedicated to defending and sustaining the individual rights of all Americans to free speech and free thought. The most essential qualities of liberty. FIRE recognizes that colleges and universities play a vital role in preserving free thought within a free society. They used to, now they don't. Now they're Marxist indoctrination camps. To this end, we place special emphasis on defending the individual rights of students and faculty members of our nation's campuses, including freedom of speech, freedom of association, due process, legal equality, religious liberty, and sanctity of conscience. Yeah, sadly, they're not worth protecting anymore as far as I'm concerned. Just let them fail, man. So that was the bad news. Okay, let's get to it, though. Let's get to the good news segment of the college stuff, because it gets hilarious. Breaking. Brandon moves to remove Title IX rights for women's in favor of gender identity protections. So if you're a dude, just say you identify as a woman and maybe you won't be discriminated against as much. The proposal essentially makes it a Title IX violation for schools to prohibit biological men from receiving women's scholarships or participating in women's activities. I am 100% in support of this. Because I remember when I was looking for scholarships before I went to college, there was only a few that were available to me in the first place, and there was a lot of competition. I had to do like essays and shit to even have a chance at getting them. Meanwhile, every other one I went past, it was some women's scholarship, some minority scholarship. And women already make up like 60% of the college population. Why the fuck are they still getting special treatment? We should be having men-only scholarships at this point to even the numbers. These Title IX changes may hilariously be a good thing. Now, Brandon's Department of Indoctrination under Secretary Miguel Cardona has released the proposed changes to the Title IX, which includes erasing biological sex from issues of sex discrimination. The proposal would conflate protections for biological sex with gender identity and see no difference between the two. Hey, biology is a social construct. Let's go. The Title IX, enacted 50 years ago in current year -50. Man, how was I able to calculate that fast? I'm a fucking genius. Was intended to curb sex-based discrimination against women at universities. Fast forward to today's 50-year anniversary of Title IX, and the once regressive rule has overcorrected into regressive territory. So, if anything, it should be reversed right now. Now that women have received so much special treatment, it's about time it went the other way. The women's face the greatest inequity risk from the 700-page proposal, which would essentially make it a Title IX violation for schools to prohibit biological males from receiving women's scholarships, participating in women's activities, and other indoctrination benefits programs. And how is that a bad thing? Like, again, women outnumber men 3-2. They're 60% of college students and rising. Well, what's the problem if it gets evened out a little bit? Now, the Department of Indoctrination's proposal will make it clear that preventing someone from participating in school programs and activities consistent with their gender identity would cause a violation of, would cause harm in violation of Title IX. But what if some international swimming body has other opinions? Do you have anything you can do against that? I mean, I don't think so, but it'll be fun to see the fight. The proposal attempts to establish that barring biological men from female-only activities would cause actual harm, laying the groundwork for punitive actions. The Department of Indoctrination clarifies engaging in a practice that prevents a person from participating in an indoctrination program or activity consistent with a gender identity subjects the person to more than de minimis harm based on sex. Violation of Title 9 could result in loss of funding for universities and loss of scholarships, revocation of an earned degree, or expulsion for students. Oh, how fucking hilarious is it going to be if dudes start identifying as women and start accusing their whammons of struggle snuggle before they could go do it? So, ironically, a large issue of Title IX originally sought to remedy was women's inequity in college athletics. History Channel reports that before Title IX, few opportunities existed for female athletes and was designed to correct those imbalances. That's because it reflected the market. Few opportunities exist because no one wants to watch it. Maybe if you did more lingerie football, that would change. That's the one thing that women's can do better than men is, look attractive to men. I guess other than gay men. So Senator Josh Hawley twatted about the erasure of gender from the Dent's proposal, saying, amazing, the Brand administration's new rule today on Title IX denies there are such things as women's and men. The administration is erasing gender and women's from a statute designed to protect them. Well, so the alternative, I'd be willing to compromise. How about you just remove the Title IX completely? Because women's are already, they've gotten so much special treatment. They're the majority, and they still keep getting special treatment. Equality would be getting rid of that special treatment. The proposal even goes as far as stating that the Department of Indoctrination does not construe the term sex as or to necessarily be limited to a single component of individual's anatomy or physiology. Further, the department need not define sex. Oh, they refuse to define it because now they could just say it's whatever they want. Parents Defending Indoctrination, a nonprofit group that empowers parents nationwide. Homeschool. That's the best way to be empowered. Made a statement on the proposal saying American families should be deeply concerned by the proposed rewrite of Title IX, from rolling back due process protections to stomping on the First Amendment to adding sexual orientation, gender identity to a statute that can only be changed by congressional action. The Brandon's administration has shown that they place the demands of a small group of political activists above the concerns of millions of families across the country. Once you realize they're never going to stop, the best way to win is to just use their own shit against them. They want to go full gender as a social construct, identify as a woman. The Moms for Liberty group shared a statement from Parents Defending Freedom, adding the Brand administrations must say they. Must say they. Oh, God. Okay, that's brilliant. Title IX rewrite is a show of force by the federal government on behalf of activists that would unconstitutionally compel the speech of school children and college students. The post-millennials Libby Emmons spoke on the issue as well, saying gender identity should have not have the same protections as biological sex. Gender identity is a fashion. Biological sex shouldn't have any protections either. Like, no one should get special treatment. The proposal comes after an executive order from Brandon signed on January of current year -1 that would allow biological men to compete against women's in sports. So this is what these women have been advocating for. They keep saying they could do anything a man can do. Now's their chance to prove it. The Brandon admin has prioritized the ratio of biological sex and has been a staunch supporter of gender theory. Really? Do you think he's actually in charge, though? Last month, Brandon's indoctrination secretary said he wants biological men to compete in women's sports. Just last week, Brandon announced he'd be signing an executive order to ban conversion therapy for those suffering from gender dysphoria.